Cyrus surveys the valley. 25,000 men form his personal army. Bronze helmets shine through sheets of rain. Spears rise like iron trees. Across the wide plain, the rebel coalition waits. 50,000 troops, banners tattered, flapping violently in wind. Drums beat irregularly. Shouts carry over wet earth. A scout slides in, boots caked with mud. Enemy cavalry approaches from the east. Cyrus does not move. Hand rests on sword hilt. Eyes steady, scanning the horizon. A soldier leans on his spear. They outnumber us 2-1. Cyrus tilts his head. Discipline, not numbers, wins wars. Men glance at one another. Tension grips every chest. Boots sink into thick mud. Shields clank with rain. Spears shake under heavy hands. The valley stretches endlessly. Another scout arrives, panting. Archers mass on left flank, ready to encircle. Cyrus nods. Hold. Maintain the center. Wait for the signal. Rain hammers helmets. Mud oozes between iron plates. A soldier whispers, Cyrus never lost a battle. Comrade grips spear tighter. Then we follow him to death. Cyrus crouches briefly over a crude map of Persia. Lines mark marches, strategic valleys, enemy positions. He traces the path from Media to the plain below. Trumpets sound. Silence falls. Spears lock. Boots dig into wet soil. Tension thrums like a heartbeat. The rebel banners ripple, chaotic and torn. Cavalry glints in distance, charging. Scream warnings. Cyrus steps back, calm, observant, watching the battlefield unfold. The fate of empires balances between mud and steel. Soldiers inhale cold, wet air, gripping weapons. Bronze and iron gleam under storm-dark skies. A distant drum thunders. Spears tremble. Heavy boots stamp mud. Shouts rise from the valley floor. Cyrus lifts his sword slightly. The signal is subtle. Discipline will meet chaos. Rain, mud, and the threat of tens of thousands waiting ahead. Every eye fixed on the horizon. Cyrus rides slowly beside his standard bearers. Mud clings to hooves. Wind pulls at the banners. He studies a rough map stretched across a saddle. Media marked in dark ink. Lydia scratched across the western hills. A standard bearer leans closer. Rebel forts guard the mountain passes. Cyrus traces the narrow routes with his finger. Good. Forts trap men as easily as enemies. Hooves thud along a wet road. Couriers rush past carrying sealed tablets. One rider shouts, messages moving toward Anatolia. Rebel commanders coordinating defenses. Another courier shakes his head. Roads are slow. Orders arrive too late. Cyrus folds the map carefully. Slow messages create blind commanders. Rain begins again. Light at first, then steady. A scout rides up quickly. Rebels fortified the main passes in Media. Cyrus nods once. And the marshlands? The scout answers immediately. Soft ground. Horses struggle there. Cyrus turns to his officers. Then we move through the marsh edges. An elite spearman beside him adjusts his shield. Your personal guard stands ready. Another officer adds quietly, your cavalry waits behind the ridge. Cyrus looks across the distant hills. Good. Elite spearmen hold the center. He taps the map again. Cavalry strikes where terrain traps them. Messengers race across dusty roads between Iran and Anatolia. Horses foam with sweat. Tablets change hands quickly. Yet confusion spreads among the rebels. A rebel officer somewhere in Lydia studies an outdated report. He mutters, Cyrus marches south. Another commander reads a different message. He moves north through Media. Neither message is correct. Back with Cyrus, the army moves steadily through rain-soaked ground. A young cavalryman whispers, their numbers still double ours. An older spearman answers calmly. Numbers break when terrain betrays them. Cyrus hears the exchange. He glances toward the distant passes. Narrow stone corridors twisting through dark hills. Marshes slow cavalry, Cyrus says quietly. His officer nods. And narrow passes crush large armies. Cyrus grips the map tighter. Exactly. Wind snaps the royal banner above them. Ahead, the mountains of Media rise like a wall. Behind those passes wait tens of thousands of rebels. Cyrus studies the land one more time. Then he gives a quiet order. Move the spearmen forward. Cavalry stays hidden. Officers repeat the command down the line. Boots sink in wet soil. Spears tilt forward. Somewhere ahead, the rebels wait confidently inside their fortified passes. Cyrus watches the terrain carefully. He already knows the ground will fight for him. Cold rain falls across the Zagros foothills. Mud spreads across the plains like thick glue. Cyrus stands beside a rough campaign table. Maps pinned with bronze daggers flutter in wind. An officer wipes rain from the parchment. These marshes stretch for miles. Cyrus studies the drawing carefully. Rivers twist between dark foothills. Narrow lanes cut through stone ridges. He taps one valley with his finger. This path forces them together. A scout rushes up the slope. Boots sliding through wet clay. Enemy chariots moving across the lower plain. Another scout arrives seconds later. Elephants with them. Heavy beasts. Cyrus glances toward the marshland below. Pools of dark water hide beneath grass. "Good," he says quietly. His cavalry commander frowns. "Good, my king?" Cyrus folds his arms. Marshes swallow wheels. The officer looks back toward the valley. Rebel chariots roll forward slowly. Wheels begin to sink. A distant shout rises from the enemy line. Another messenger gallops in, horse breathing hard. Elephants struggling in the mud. A spearman nearby chuckles under his breath. Cyrus speaks calmly. Heavy armies fear soft ground. The camera view stretches across the valley. Rebel formations stretch and twist across the wet plain. Chariots stall in marsh depressions. Elephants thrash through hidden pits. Commanders shout, trying to restore order. Up on the ridge, Cyrus studies another map. Lines mark the Zagros foothills. Narrow corridors snake between the mountains. His general leans closer. These passes are barely wide enough for infantry. Cyrus nods slowly. Perfect lanes. For ambush? The general asks. For control, Cyrus replies. Rainwater runs across the parchment. Cyrus traces a thin path between two ridges. Sends small cavalry units through here. The commander studies the path. A natural corridor. Cyrus gives a short nod. Below them, rebel forces attempt to regroup. Drums beat loudly. Officers wave banners frantically. But the marshes keep swallowing wheels. Elephants struggle to climb muddy slopes. Meanwhile, Cyrus's cavalry begins moving quietly through the narrow lanes. Small units disappear between the rocky ridges. One rider whispers to another, "The ground fights for us." The second rider grins, and Cyrus knows every inch of it. Back on the ridge, Cyrus watches the valley carefully. Heavy enemy formations remain stuck in mud, but the narrow Zagros lanes are opening, exactly where Cyrus wants them. Morning mist hangs low across the valley. Mud grips boots. Spears rest against heavy shields. Cyrus walks slowly along the front line. His officers wait beside him. The formation stretches across the wet ground. A phalanx, angled slightly across the field. A young officer studies the line. Our flank looks weak. Cyrus glances at him. Good. Let them believe it. Rows of spearmen tighten formation. Long spears tilt forward. One soldier lifts his weapon slightly. These spears are twice their length. Another nods. They will reach us too late. The rebel army watches from the opposite ridge. A rebel general raises a spyglass. Their flank bends. Another commander smiles. They are afraid. Below, Cyrus raises a quiet hand. Light infantry begins moving first. They advance briefly, then slowly fall back. A rebel cavalry captain shouts from the distance. They retreat. Ride them down. Hooves thunder across the wet plain. Cyrus watches calmly. An officer wipes sweat from his brow. They took the bait. The cavalry charge grows louder. Mud sprays beneath galloping horses. Cyrus turns slightly toward a nearby ridge. A messenger waits there, holding the reins of several horses. Cyrus gives a small signal with 2 fingers. The messenger rides immediately. Behind the hills, 3,000 elite horse archers prepare silently. One rider adjusts his bowstring. Another whispers, 3,000 against their entire flank. The commander answers quietly. Cyrus chose this ground. Back on the plain, rebel cavalry pushes deeper forward. They chase the retreating infantry directly into a narrow corridor, between marsh pools, between stone ridges. A rebel officer shouts suddenly, "We are funneling together." But momentum drives them forward. Then hooves echo from the hills. The horse archers appear. 3,000 riders spill into the corridor like a dark wave. Arrows lift into the air. A rebel captain stares upward. Horse archers. The first arrows fall. Cyrus stands behind his phalanx, completely still. His officers watch nervously. One mutters, "A smaller army causing this much chaos." Cyrus's eyes remain steady. Ahead, rebel generals shout conflicting orders. Some demand advance. Others scream for retreat. But the corridor is already closing, exactly where Cyrus planned it. Morning fog clings to the valley floor. Mud swallows boots and wheels alike. Rebel infantry marches forward confidently. Spears upright. Helmets gleam under the gray sky. Chariots thunder through wet fields. 800 wheel-thrown beasts, each dragging heavy axles. Cyrus watches from a slight ridge, hand resting on the hilt of his sword, eyes calm, scanning. A young officer whispers, "Their chariots will crush everything." Cyrus shakes his head. The ground crushes them first. Narrow passes cut between the hills. Marshes flank either side. Small corridors force men together. Bottlenecks form naturally. A scout shouts from the ridge. Cavalry flanks moving silently around their rear. Cyrus nods slightly. "Wait. Let them enter." The rebel heavy cavalry pushes into the narrow lanes. Horses stomp and snort, mud spraying. Elephants follow, unsure. Feet slip. Heavy bodies twist. Panic spreads in their ranks. A spearman steps forward quietly. "Our center holds, sir. Flanks are steady." Cyrus nods once. "Good. Let the trap tighten." Archers raise bows along the ridges. Slingers ready smooth stones. Arrows whistle through the fog. Slings thump into shields and armor. A rebel officer shouts angrily, "Advance. Push forward." His men stumble through the mud. Chariots bog down. Horses struggle in soft earth. Small units of elite spearmen intercept the flanks. Spears pierce through disordered ranks. Fear ripples across the rebel lines. Confusion grows. Officers argue loudly. The weak flanks, designed to appear vulnerable, hold unyielding. Rebel generals misread the strength before them. Cavalry moves quietly around the rear. Hidden riders circle like shadows. Every step the rebels take drives them deeper into the valley. Mud, marsh, and narrow passes conspire together. Chaos builds from miscalculation. Cyrus's eyes scan every movement. Nothing escapes his notice. The valley tightens around the enemy. Every natural bottleneck exploited perfectly. Rebels push forward, unaware the trap closes behind them. The first arrows strike, piercing panic through their front ranks. Cyrus remains calm. Hands rest lightly on long spears, waiting for the final moment. Cavalry surges from hidden ridges. Hooves tear through wet soil, slicing the enemy rear. Shouts and screams rise across the valley. Arrows rain down from higher ground. A rebel officer cries out, trying to restore order. His voice is lost in chaos. Elephants panic in the marshy ground. Heavy beasts slip, crashing into their own lines. Cyrus steps forward with his elite guard. 5,000 spearmen march steadily, shields raised. Long-range javelins strike fleeing units. Spears pierce armor where soldiers stumble in mud. Sunlight glints off bronze helmets. Disciplined formations advance steadily. Chaos shatters before them. Rebel generals shout contradictory orders. Some demand retreat, others attack blindly. A cavalry captain rides past Cyrus. "Midday, sir." The flank is broken. Cyrus nods without expression. "Push forward. Keep the line intact." The valley becomes a storm of mud, metal, and screams. Spears lock. Boots dig deeper. Archers pick off officers trying to rally men. Horses slip. Wheels twist in marshes. Cyrus watches calmly. Every movement measured. Every order precise. A soldier whispers to his neighbor, 5,000 of us, and still calm. The comrade nods. Discipline overcomes numbers every time. Cavalry cuts a clear path through the chaos. The rebel rear collapses into disorder. Lines crumble. Soldiers fall into mud. Panic spreads from front to back. Cyrus advances further, spear in hand. Elite guard follows without hesitation. Mud sprays with every step of charging cavalry. Arrows whistle overhead. Some rebels attempt to regroup near a narrow pass. They find themselves trapped from all sides. Cyrus signals forward. The disciplined center moves in perfect rhythm. Flank after flank of the rebels is overwhelmed. Confusion reigns everywhere. The battlefield shakes under the weight of disciplined force versus panic. By midday, the cavalry breakthrough secures the enemy's flank completely.